I don't want you to see the end result of what my makeup is gonna look like, but just know that in today's video, I'm challenging myself to do my entire face of makeup using one mini sponge. Just one, to do everything. So if you wanna see how this turned out, keep watching. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, hi, my name is Jess, welcome. So in today's video, I'm gonna be doing a little makeup challenge. Also, I just quickly wanna address that if there's lots of noise in the background, that's because I'm currently in a hotel and there is quite literally a highway right in front of me. Let me show you guys. So there's lots of road noise in the background, and also if I'm kind of like whispering, that's because I'm trying not to be too loud. But anyways, today I'm going to challenge myself to do a full face of makeup using only one singular product, and that product is going to be a mini beauty sponge that was in the 10 set of sponges that I shared in my last video. So I'm going to use only this to do an entire face of makeup, and I am challenging myself to make it look decent because I am going to be wearing this for the rest of the day and I do have plans to go out for dinner and stuff, so I'm going to try and make it look good. Now I do have 3 different shape options in this set. So the first shape being like this Real Techniques, a miniature version of the Real Techniques sponge. And then I also have this one that looks like a little dumpling. And then the last shape in this set is this one, which is the traditional Beauty Blender shape. I think I'm gonna go with the one that has the traditional Beauty Blender shape. So let me go ahead and wet this. That way you guys can see the difference between a dry sponge and a wet sponge. So this one right here is the wet sponge, and then this one is obviously the dry sponge. You can see a size difference if I put them side by side. It kind of got a little bit wider and a little bit taller. So that's gonna be pretty helpful when doing my makeup. So without further ado, let's begin the challenge. So I'm gonna be going in with my base first, and for primer, I'm going to use this one right here. This is the Ciate London Watermelon Burst Hydrating Primer. This feels so nice on my skin. It's nice and cooling, very hydrating, and it also gives my skin like a sticky base so that the foundation can like really grip onto it and it like keeps it in place. I do have to give it like a couple of minutes for it to dry so that it can get nice and tacky. So once I'm done blending it in, I'm gonna just let it dry for a little bit. For my base or foundation, I'm gonna take this one right here. This is the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. I love this stuff. I've been using this stuff for years. I really love the coverage, and I also like that it's skincare and makeup infused in one because I love getting skincare benefits as well as getting the coverage that I desire. So I'm just going to take that with my finger. Oh, also I'm using 2 shades to get my right shade. So right now I'm using the color Light 240W and Medium 330W and mixing them together. I'm gonna need a mirror, so I'm gonna use this right here because I don't have a mirror in front of me. And I'm just going to start blending this in. I have a feeling that this is going to take quite some time because it only covers so much surface area. I will say though, it is working pretty well. I'm using the butt of the beauty sponge to blend all of this out, and it is working. It's just taking quite a bit, so I'm gonna fast forward this part. This sits perfectly right in between my brows. So the foundation is on and blended. Now I'm gonna go into concealer. For concealer, I'm gonna use this one from e.l.f. This is another product that I've been using for a really long time, although I have heard really good things about the Flower Beauty concealer, so I'm thinking I'm going to purchase that one when I run out of this. So I'm just going to apply it straight to the area. I feel like that was way too much product, but it's okay, we'll blend it out. I'm gonna add a little bit here to cancel out any redness, and then just a little bit here to brighten. And recently I've been liking applying it right here. Usually I contour beforehand, but you know what? We're doing things a little out of order today, but that's okay. So now I'm going to take the little tip of the beauty sponge. Well, first I'm gonna let that kind of just sit for a little bit. I'm actually gonna take the butt of the sponge and then blend out everything apart from under the eyes. I will say that for concealer, I knew this was gonna work really well because when I first saw them, I was like, the only real use that I can see in these would be for concealer because it's like small, it would fit really well under the eyes. Now I'm gonna switch to the pointier side and I'm gonna use this for underneath the eyes. So concealer is on and blended. Now I'm gonna move to cream contour. For cream contour, I'm using this one from Laritzi Cosmetics. It's in the shade Mahalo, and it's this cream contour stick. This is super pigmented, so I have to be very careful with this. I think I'm actually gonna apply it to my palm and then just kind of like dip the beauty sponge into it and then put it on my face. I'm gonna squeeze this as tight as I can to get it as narrow as possible to try and do some nose contour. Let's see how this goes. Okay, it's a little wider than I would like, but I can correct it with some concealer afterwards. And I'm actually gonna take this into the eye socket here because I'm also gonna be doing my eyeshadow. So I guess this is like a good way to start that. So I'm just gonna pop this here into the crease to help deepen it up and give it a little bit more dimension. And also kind of like wing it out. So I think that about does it for contour. Now I'm gonna go in with some cream blush. I'm gonna use this one right here from She Glam. This packaging is so cute. And it just has this little sponge tip applicator. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm just gonna take some here on this palette and then use the actual beauty sponge to apply it onto the cheek instead of using the applicator. I'm gonna actually use this side of the beauty sponge for the blush since this side really hasn't been used and the bottom has a lot of bronzer or contour on there and I don't wanna like make it look muddy or weird. I did not take into account how extremely pigmented that blush was gonna be. So I'm kind of having to like really blend it out a lot more than I thought. I'm gonna just kind of like bring it into here and put some on the tip of my nose or on top of my nose as well to make it look like I have like that sun-kissed kind of look. I got the color Rose Ritual. That's the color of this blush. Totally forgot to mention that, sorry. But it's very pretty. And once it's like blended out, it is pigmented, but once it's blended out, it's like a beautiful, beautiful color. I'm also finding it a little bit hard to hold the beauty sponge as well. I feel like when I try and like hold onto it, I kind of take up like all this space. So I have to like hold onto it by the edge, but then when I do and I start to pounce, it kind of starts to slide and it feels like it's going to fall out of my hand, which it already has. So I put the blush on this side. The opposite side of the beauty sponge should be pretty clean. So since there's nothing on there, I'm going to use that to kind of help blend between the concealer and the blush to make it look a little bit more seamless. Because right now I feel like you can kind of see like a stark line. And if I absolutely need to, I'll put a little bit of like foundation on the beauty sponge to kind of blend this out a little more. I'm thinking I can also tone it down a little bit with the setting powder once I go in with setting powder here in a second. Okay, so I like the way that everything is looking. Now before I use this to apply powder, I'm going to apply some eyeshadow. Now the eyeshadow that I have actually is this one right here, and it's kind of like a jelly consistency. So I'm gonna just like dip into the butt of the sponge. Is this even working? This might not even work, you guys. Nothing is happening. And if I use my finger, just so that you can see, there it is. So it's really interesting that it's not picking up the product when I put the beauty sponge in there, but it's doing it when I'm putting my finger in. So I guess I'll just use my finger instead. So that about does it for the eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and set my face with some powder now. So I'm gonna use the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder. This is my absolute favorite setting powder ever. So I'm just gonna take some on the actual cap here, and then I'm going to dunk my little beauty sponge in there and set everything in place. But before I do, I'm gonna make sure that I blend out any creasing. So I have some powder on my sponge and then set. I'm gonna bake a little bit here on the sides of my nose and my cheeks as well, because I tend to get very oily in this area. So here's what the makeup looks like right now, and so far it's looking pretty good, but I have a feeling that it's gonna go downhill from here. And the reason why I say that is because so far I've just applied cream and liquid products, which we all know work really well with a beauty sponge, and then setting powder. Setting powder is another thing that works really well with a beauty sponge. However, going in with a pressed powder like a bronzer and a blush is going to be a totally different story, because normally you use brushes for these type of products, and I'm going to be using a sponge. So this is the part where it gets tricky. I'm gonna go in with my powder bronzer. This is from Milani. This is the Sun-Kissed Silky Matte Bronzing Powder. I'm going to just kind of swirl the butt in there. Holy guacamole, okay. I'm gonna just like pat it on the back of my hand to kind of get a feel. It does leave some pigment on there, so I think so long as I'm very light-handed, it should be fine, but we'll see. I'm going to just lightly tap. Oh, that is way more pigmented than I thought it would be. Okay, alrighty. Okay, that is progressively getting worse. Let me just try and take off some of that, some of that bronzer. Oh no. Okay, we're gonna just stamp it on here and try and diffuse this as much as possible. Oh my God, you guys, this is, didn't I tell you this is where it goes downhill? This is where it all goes downhill. Oh my gosh. I can't diffuse this line. Okay, I'm gonna use like the side of the sponge here and see if this helps at all. Does that look better? No. This side looks a little bit better than this side, although they both look extremely harsh. Extremely. This is just not looking good. But you know what? I figured this would happen. Maybe if I try swiping motions instead of patting. Let's try this technique here on the forehead. I don't think it's working too good. I don't know. Oh my God, I have like a clear marking here. Oh God, okay, I'm gonna try and use the side of the sponge to kind of blend out this harsh edge that we have going on here to see if that works. I'm surprised that the foundation is not like lifting right now. Everything is staying in place. Granted, I'm trying to use like as light pressure as possible. Did that help diffuse it a little bit? I mean, it's still kind of there. This is the real issue here. Maybe I just use the swiping technique I've been using. I feel like that improved a little bit. So we're gonna just take any residual, hit the sides of the nose here. Now we're gonna move on to blush. For blush, I'm using this one from Essence. This is like one of my favorite blushes. This was only like $1 or $2 at Ulta, and it's phenomenal. This is in the shade Beloved. And I also love how compact and minimal the packaging is. Perfect for travel. And for this, I'm gonna use this side of the beauty sponge. I'm just gonna kind of dip into it there. You can clearly see that there's lots of color. I'm gonna just like kind of diffuse the color there and then kind of drag it. That is so streaky. Not streaky, but like, you can just see there's like a clear line there. Okay, let me try some pouncing motions. Just like switching up my technique here from swiping to pouncing. It's looking like the Neapolitan ice cream on my face right now. Just swipe, or what if I do circles? Circles instead of swiping. I love how I'm using like totally different techniques on one side of my face. It's just gonna end up in my face not looking the same on both sides, but you know what? We're learning. Okay, how's that side looking? Both sides look awful. Which side looks better though? I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so there's the blush. Maybe just add a little bit here. But now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back in with my setting powder and try and diffuse. I'm just gonna dip into any side of the sponge at this point. I've given up on what side, what product has or whatever. Just gonna go over the entire cheek, kind of like softens it, if you will. I think that's as good as it's gonna get. So now all that's really left to do is highlighter for powder on the face. So I'm gonna take this one. This is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is such an old one. It's from the Amrezy collection. I'm gonna take that on the tip of my sponge here and then just a tiny little dot right on the tip of my nose. Holy crap, that's so pigmented. A little bit here in the inner corner of the eyes. Oh, that works great for the inner corner. And then highlighter on the cheek. For this, I'm gonna pounce it into place. Okay, that looks a little splotchy, but it's okay. So that's basically all that I can do with this sponge, because brows, I don't have a brow powder. I did not pack that with me. All I bought was my NYX Micro Brow Pencil, and then just mascara, and then lips. I guess I could try and do lips with this. So let me do lashes, eyebrows, and then I'll be right back. The brown lashes are done. All that's left now is to do my lips. So I'm gonna go in with this She Glam lipstick. This is in the shade High Key, and I'm going to be using my beauty sponge to apply this. So I'm gonna just take the tip of the sponge and I'm just gonna brush some of that product onto the actual sponge itself, and then just kind of draw it onto the lips. And I like that this pointy part right here is gonna make it really easy to get into the corners. That was so effortless. I'm gonna grab a little more and do the other side. Okay, now it's time to do the top lip. This one's gonna be a little tricky because I do like to overline the top of my lip, and I'm gonna see if I can do it with the sponge. Okay, so I'm just gonna take this and go a little bit over my Cupid's bow. Just kind of like drawing an X, just going from the tip all the way across. And then I'm just gonna quickly fill in my natural lip. Taking a little bit more, and I'm now gonna do the X on the other side. So like matching up that Cupid's bow, and then just drawing an X. Okay, so there I have the Cupid's bow. Now I'm just going to connect the corner of that to the corner of my lip. And that was actually pretty impressive. I am shook by how easy that is. And just taking a little bit more of that lipstick and building up the pigment in the center of the lip. And there it is. That honestly worked out pretty well. And again, I'm using the shade High Key on the lips, which is like a deep, dusty rose. This is a matte lipstick, so it has no shine to it whatsoever, but I feel like it looks really, really pretty. So that is basically the glam done. Okay, so now let's quickly talk about doing my makeup with this tiny little sponge. Okay, so first and foremost, it took way longer than how it would normally if I would have gone in with like a normal sized beauty sponge or my makeup brushes. That's first things first. It's time consuming as hell. Okay, so now in terms of how it applied my makeup. So when it came to applying my liquid and cream products, it worked phenomenal. Again, it just took a very long time, but it worked really well. And then of course, setting everything in place was super easy because the powder itself is translucent. So setting everything in place was totally fine. And traditionally, like, when I use a bigger beauty sponge, I do use a powder puff or a sponge to go in and bake my face. So that wasn't like a step that was out of the ordinary for me. But what was the most challenging part was definitely going in with the powdered products, like the pressed powder products, like the bronzer and the blush. I will say the highlighter, I didn't experience that many issues, although it did go on a little bit splotchy and kind of patchy. So I guess those three products were really like where I struggled the absolute most. And of course the eyeshadow. The eyeshadow just didn't take for some reason, like it just would not go on the sponge, but it would go on my finger, which I thought was really weird. Okay, so now let's analyze the makeup. First and foremost, I feel like right here in this area, you can kind of tell that it's not like super well blended. And I think that was like the powder. I couldn't really blend out the powder itself. And if I had like an actual pressed powder foundation, I feel like that would have been so beneficial for kind of helping to blend everything. But I did not pack it with me in my travel makeup case. I only bought translucent setting powder with me. So I feel like if I would have had that powder foundation, it would have really helped to kind of help blend everything. But considering that I only had setting powder, I feel like it looks pretty okay. It does look a little intense. Like you can definitely see here the intensity or like the line of blush. And it's just, it doesn't look good in person. It might look good or decent on camera, but in person, let me tell you, it's a totally different story. Applying the lipstick with the sponge was actually really surprising. I did not expect for it to go as well. I knew it wouldn't be an issue when doing the bottom lip. I was more so concerned when doing like the Cupid's bow area where I like to overline. But really the tip of this beauty sponge helped so much by doing that little like technique of kind of connecting the lines and whatnot. I feel like that really helped. So overall, pretty impressed by how the makeup turned out. Am I going to be doing this again? Absolutely no. I just took way too much time, and I would probably, to be completely honest with you, like just keeping it 100, I will probably never reach for these. When I'm doing my makeup on a day-to-day, I'm either using a brush or a regular size beauty sponge. So realistically, I don't really find a purpose for this. So that is basically my thoughts and opinions on this entire process. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are down below in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Turn on the bell notification that way you're notified every time I upload a brand new video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.